Let us look at sense organs. To start with, we need to know what a sense organ is. And a sense organ is just an organ that is responsible for detecting one or more stimuli. Okay, examples of sense organs, we have the eye, the skin, the chemoreceptors, that is in the nose, the tongue, chemoreceptors, and of course the ear. These are some of the sense organs. But in this one, we are going to focus on an eye as one of the sense organ. Okay, so sense organ detect stimuli. What is the stimuli that an eye detect? Okay, so an eye is just a sense organ responsible for detecting light energy. And in this one, we are going to start by looking at the structure of an eye, both the internal and external structure. We are going to look at first looking at the parts that make up the external structure, and of course we come to look at the parts that make up the internal structure, and afterward we are going to look at the functions. Okay, so let us have a look at these simple drawings, and I guess my drawings are accurate, or you are able to see something out of this, familiar with what you know. So let us have a look at the external structure of an eye. So for the external structure of an eye, as you can see the parts, I've labeled them X, Y, and Z. Okay, then for the internal structure, I've labeled them from A up to L, and of course there's an addition of M. Let us look at the parts of the external structure of an eye. So for Y is called the cornea. So X is called the cornea. So this X part that you are seeing where it is pointing right here, this whole part here is called the cornea. Then we have the Y part, which is called the iris, and we have the Z part, which is the middle part there, which is called the pupil, however you pronounce it. Okay, what about the longitudinal section? So please, these are very important diagrams. When it comes to questions, you are going to maybe, who knows, in an exam you find a question, be it on multiple choice and also maybe paper 2 where you are asked to write something. So one thing important, you need to know the parts, and of course as we are going to discuss the functions, so you know the part and also the function, then you are okay. So about the longitudinal section, which is the internal part of an eye, like I said, they are labeled from A to L, and of course there's an addition of, let me just say, from A to M. So what is the part labeled A? So look at it very carefully. What is the part labeled A? And as you can see, A, we have this part here and also this part here. So what is this part? In the case where, let's say, it's labeled here, we can still put it's A because they're just one and the same. So A is called ciliary muscle. So take note of that. A is called ciliary muscle. Then what about B? So B is pointing right at this part. Okay, so B, it is called the iris. Okay, now look at this one. The iris this side is Y. So if we are to look at it from the longitudinal section here, that is how an iris looks like. Okay, then what about C? So C is pointing right here. What about C? So C, it is called the cornea. So this whole part here, this white part in the external one, which is called the cornea, here it is this part that you are able to see. That is the cornea. Then we have D. What about D? So in this section, there's a fluid. Okay, in this section, there's a fluid, watery fluid. And that is called the aqueous humor. That is called aqueous humor. So D, it is called aqueous humor. Now, what about this opening here? We are looking at this opening because this is also the iris. Then now the opening between. So if you look at the iris from the external part, the inside part there, that opening, the pupil, is what we are able to see right there. So which means E is the pupil. Then what about F? So F is pointing at this red part here, this one here, which is called the lens. from the external part, you are unable to see it, but it's just after the pupil. Okay, so that is called a lens. Okay, take note of that. Then what about G? Where is G? So G is right here. So it can be a lens in some drawings, then also with this part here. So that is the part that we are talking of, and that is called suspensory ligaments. Okay, suspensory ligament. There are two, so suspensory ligaments. Also this side, so these are called suspensory ligaments. So we can label this as G. Okay, then now what about H? So H is the whole part here, the whole of this part, inside part here. That is what we call H, and H in this case is the vitreous humor. Okay, vitreous humor. Then we can look at I. Where is I? So I is right here, pointing at this rear surface of an eye, the end surface here, this part here, right here. What we call this part? This is called the retina. This is called the retina. Okay, then we have the J part. I guess we are on J. Yes, the J part, which is this dark line here, which is this dark line, and also there, and this is called the colloid. That is called the colloid. Okay, then we have K. What is K? So K, as you can see from here, it is this. Okay, it is more like this. Then there's a part that is you know, this part, that is what we call the fovea centralis. Okay, or yellow spot. So that one is so called yellow spot, and we are going to see soon. Then we have the sclera. The sclera, which is just J. Then of course, what about K? Did we mention K? Okay, K is the one that we are from looking at. L, which is the sclera. Then we have the optic nerves at M. Okay, so these are the internal part of an eye that you need to know. And of course, like I said, we need to know each and every function of these parts. But more important, you need to know the part, because if you can know the part, then you can give the function. Okay, let us have a look at now their functions. So we are going to look at their function. Let us start with the sclera. So we are starting from this. We are not following really in order the way we named them, but we are going to start from the sclera. Okay, okay. So what is the function of the sclera? And for you to know by description, or to describe this part, is as a tough fibrous outer coat of an eye. It's a tough fibrous coat, outer coat of an eye. Its function is to maintain the spherical shape of the eyeball. As you know, the eyeball is spherical in shape. So that is this function. The function of a sclera, one of it is to maintain the spherical shape of the eyeball. Then also protects the eye against the damage. Then we can look at provides attachment for the external eye muscles, which moves the eyeball, or which moves the eye into the socket. So these are some of the functions of the sclera. So any of these functions, if you're asked to give the function, you can give any of these functions. If you're asked to, then you can pick two. Let us have a look at the cornea. Now, the cornea is a transparent part of the sclera found in front of an eye. Okay, so the cornea, as you know, is found in front right here. Okay, and from here, the cornea, we said, is X. So in other words, the white part that we see on an eye, or that we see, is what we call the cornea. Now, what is the function of the cornea? So for the function of the cornea is just to refract. It refracts light rays from an object. So the object that you are seeing, let us say you look at a cup. The rays of light from the cup enters your eye and is able to refract. And you know, to refract is just to bend. I guess you know that from light. That is science. Okay, then let us look at the colloid. The colloid, we said, is the one with the dark part here. So the dark part here is what we call the colloid. what is the function of the colloid. So this is a dark layer, and it is dark because it contains a lot of blood vessels. Now these blood vessels, they carry blood, and mainly is to supply oxygen and nutrients to the what? To the retina. Okay, so provides food and oxygen to the cells of the retina. That is the function of the choroid. Let us look at the retina. What about the retina? So one thing about the retina, you should know that it contains light sensitive cells. It contains light sensitive cells, and this is where the image forms. Okay, this is where the image forms, and the light energy is converted into electric impulse before it is being transmitted to the visual center in the brain, as we are going to look at the optic nerves. Okay, now what are the light sensitive cells that you find on the retina? So we have the cones and the what? The rods. So the cones, they form the clear or detailed image when there is high light intensity. So when there's high light intensity, the cones forms the detailed image. Then for the rods, they form the blurred black and white images when there's low light intensity or dim light, and these are called also as blind spots. Okay, what about the optic nerve? So this one, I've already touched on this one. So the optic nerve transmit nerve impulse from the retina to the visual center in the brain for interpretation. Okay, so the image, the light rays is converted to electric impulse and transmitted to the visual center. Then you are able to interpret the message, okay, which enables us now to see the actual image. Then we have the vitreous humor. The vitreous humor, we said, is the fluid that is found in this region. Okay, in this region, that is what we call the vitreous humor. Now, what is the function really of the vitreous humor? So it's a jelly-like fluid, and its function is just keeps the eyeball in shape and also refract light rays. So that is its function. It also supports the lens and keep the retina in place at the rear end. Okay. Then what about the aqueous humor? The aqueous humor, as you know, is the one that is found now between the lens and the cornea, right here. That is where you find the aqueous humor. So the aqueous humor as well plays an important role in refraction of light. Let us look at it. So it's a watery fluid which supports the cornea and keeps it in shape. And aside from that, it also makes up the convex, the refraction power of an eye together with the lens. Okay. Now, let us have a look at the function of an eye in general. So an eye in general, the function is image formation and also focus and accommodation of image, as we are going to look at focus and accommodation soon. What are the characteristics of the image formed by an eye? So one, they are inverted, which are upside down. They are diminished, which means smaller than the object. They are real image. Okay. So now, what about focusing? We look at focusing and accommodation. Focusing and accommodation as one function of an eye. To start with, what is focusing? What is focusing? So focusing is just the formation of an image or clear image on the retina. Like as we've already discussed, the image is formed on the retina. So that is where you find, that is where the image is formed. And that is where the ray of light, yes, let me just say that is where the image is formed. So focusing is the formation of a clear image on the retina. Then what about accommodation now? So accommodation, in this one, to define it, we are going to encompass some of the terms that will make the definition full. So in this case, we can say it's the formation of focused image, which means there's the focusing on the retina. Now, how does that image form? By adjusting the thickness and the length of the lens. So the image is formed simply by adjusting the thickness and the length of the what? The lens, using suspensory ligament and ciliary muscle. So these are the functions of this ciliary muscle and suspensory ligament just to enable us to form the focused image, okay, in response to the distant object from the eye, okay. Then now, since we are looking at accommodation, which result into the formation of an image that is from a distant object, let us look at now accommodation, which means we can have the formation of an object from the nearby object and also far object. So let us look at accommodation of nearby object, okay, nearby object. This one's supposed to be nearby, please. Nearby object. How is it? So one thing that you should know about nearby object is that the rays of light from close object are divergent, okay. The rays of light, if this is an eye, the rays of light from a nearby object are divergent, okay. Divergent, which means they are splitting, and since now they are splitting, there is need for a lens, or the lens need more power to refract them, because it's only when they are refracted toward or on the retina at the end there at the back, that is when the image can be formed. So they are divergent. So now in order to form a clear image, there's need for more power to refract the light on the retina. Now this is where now you see how the suspensory ligament, how the lens and also the ciliary muscle behave in order to work out this one. So let us look at the events that occur on these muscles and also the lens. Okay, so the ciliary muscle contract. So suspensory ligament, please let me just try to draw this one here. So here is the ciliary muscle, then we have the suspensory ligament, they are attached to the lens, then also suspensory ligament, then we have the ciliary muscle. So suspensory ligaments, we can just picture them as if they are just strings, okay, that are attaching to the lens, and of course enable it to be suspended. So these can be pulled or loosened or sunken. So now what happens when you have a nearby object? Like I said, you need more power to refract the light. So what works now? The ciliary muscle contracts. So when this ciliary muscle contract, what happens? The suspensory ligament become shrunken, okay. You know, this lens that is here can be straightened or can be made thick. Is it thin? Also thick. So when it is pulled, when these suspensory ligaments are pulled, what happened to the lens? It straightened, which means it becomes thin. But when they are shrunken, which means this one becomes thick, and we need it thick to give it more power to refract the right rays. So in that case, these muscles here, ciliary muscles, contract and suspensory ligament become shrunken or slunken. Then what happened to the lens? The lens become thick and short. The rays of light are more refracted, okay. That is what happened. So this one also, take note, you are going to find a question maybe to explain, okay, that one is coming. I think that one is coming. Then let us look at the accommodation of the far object. So the far object, the right of rays from the far object do not require much refraction. They are more parallel, okay. They are more parallel, so do not require much refraction power. So which means it needs the thin lens, okay. So it's able to be refracted just easily. So now, what are the events that happen to the ciliary muscles and also the suspensory ligaments and the lens? How does it become? This time around, the ciliary muscle relaxes, suspensory ligament becomes taut, which means they are pulled, okay, making the lens long and thin, okay. So in this case, rays of light are less refracted by focusing the image on the retina. So these are what happen when focusing on the accommodation of the far object. Let us look at now the pupil or iris reflex. This is one of the function of an eye that I forgot to mention. Pupil or iris reflex. What is this? This is just the adjustment of the diameter of the pupil. So two muscles are involved, radial muscle and also circular muscles of the iris, in response to the change in what? In light intensity. Okay, so this one mainly we discuss what happened to the iris. It can widen in size or dilate in size or reduce in size. Okay, so now let us look at what happened when there is bright light. So when there's too much light, or high light intensity, the pupil reduce in size, and this is due to the work of the muscles, that is the radial and the circular muscles, and you need to know how they work. Why does it reduce in size? So that because when much light enters the eye, it can destroy the retina. Okay, it can damage the eye. So the eye need to regulate the amount of light that enters it. So that is how it does it, by reducing its size. Okay, so high light intensity can damage the retina, like I've already said. Hence, light entering the eye need to be controlled. Now, how is it controlled? In this case, the circular muscle contracts, the radial muscle relaxes, and the pupil constrict, which means reduce in size. So this is the image, or this is the drawing for when there's high light intensity, okay, to the pupil. Okay, so as you can see, these are what we call radial muscle. They relax. These are radial muscles, relax, as you can see. Then the circular muscle are these that are going like this. They do what? They contract. So when they contract, they result into reducing the space of the pupil, as you can see is right here. So it has reduced in what? In size. That's constricted, so that less light can enter the what? The eye. And this happens when there's too much light, or high light intensity. So this, you need to know it. Okay, then what happened in dim light? So when there's low light intensity, in this case, when there's low light intensity, for you to see clearly, you need more light to enter your eye so that you can see clearly. And in this case, to allow more light to enter, the pupil increase or widen in size. So look at this. The light reaching the retina is not enough for image formation. So now, like I said, the pupil respond by widening in size so that more light can enter, so that image can be, or you can see clearly. Now, what happened to the behavior of the muscles? The radial muscle this time around contract, the circular muscle relaxes, the pupil dilates, which means allow more light as possible to enter the eye. And this is what happened. Okay, so we have the circular muscle which relaxes, and of course the radial muscle which contract in this case. Okay, so what I wanted to say is that you are going to find a question. I've seen a question on essay questions that is on this topic, where you're asked, explain what happened when you move from high light intensity to a room where there's the low light intensity, which means you are moving from high light to dim light. So what happened? This is what we explain. So when there's high light, this is what happened to. So you explain it in terms of the behavior of the muscles, that is the radial and the circular muscle, and also how the pupil respond, or how it results into the size of the pupil. So explain, this is when, so when you are moving from high light intensity, this is what you explain. When you are moving from, you are into the low light intensity, this is what you explain. So this part I thought of just bringing it in the case you find it at some point. Then let us look at the eye defects. What are some of the eye defects? So eye defects or eye diseases. So we have what we call short sight, which is called myopia. Then we have long sight. Now for long sight, what is the other name for long sight? So make sure that you give that answer. So just type in the comment section what is the other name for long sight. Then we have also blindness. Quite different types of blindness. We have night blindness, river blindness, color blindness, and also blindness due to injury. Okay, let us discuss short sight, which is called myopia. Now, what is short sight? So this is just an eye defect where an individual can clearly see close object but not distant object, or distant object appear blurred. That is short sight. You've come across such kind of people. They can only see from the short distance but not from the long distance. Now we are going to dig deep and look at what really happened on the scientific perspective. So the ray of light are focused in front of the what? The retina. So only when the ray of light is focused on the retina, that is when the image or clear image is formed. So when it is formed in front, then we have the blur image. It is caused by abnormally long eyeball or permanently thick lens. You might find a question where you're asked, what is the cause of short sight? So you have abnormally long eyeball. Okay, so which means the ray of light is bent from the lens. The ray of light is bent in front of the retina. If this is the retina, so it is bent, or it is it converge in front here, which makes an image blurred. So this is what happened. This is just a simple diagram. Be able to look at the diagram and what happened, the clear one. But here I'm just trying to give a simple diagram. Okay, so this is what happened. But how can it be collected? Because this one can be collected so that someone can see clearly. So you might find a question where you ask, what is the cause of, what is short blindness? I mean, what is short-sightedness? Then what is what are the causes? What is the cause? Then how can it be collected? That is a viable question. So how it is collected by using the concave lens. So by using the concave lens. So what happened is that when you have this one, the lens here is permanently thick. Okay, so it has a high refraction power. So as a result, the ray of light or rays of light are refracted more, and this caused them to meet in front here. So to reduce the refractive power of the lens, you put the diverging lens in front, which is the concave. So you start by diverging the light, then now it is refracted. That is, now it is refracted on the retina. Okay, so it can be collected by using concave lens. If you know that, then we are good. What about long sight? So long sight, when you hear of long sight, this is just an eye defect where an individual can clearly see distant object but close object appear blurred. So this is the difference of short-sightedness. So this one is able to see distant object or from a distance but not from close object. And this one is caused by abnormally short eyeball, which is permanently thin. So this time around we have the lens that has low refractive power, because the thick, let me just put this, when the lens is thick, it has more refractive power, so it refracts the ray of light more than this one. So we have the one that is permanently thin and it has low refractive power. So how do we increase the refractive power to this one so that more the ray of light can be refracted more? So what happened normally, what happened in long-sightedness is that the image is formed beyond the what? The image is formed, let me just try to put a lens here. The image is formed beyond the what? The retina. So outside the retina, that is where it is formed. So you need to bring it behind. So how do you do that? You need the one that has high refractive power. So in this one, it can be collected by using the convex lens, so that you add to the refractive power here, and of course that is how you correct it. Okay, all right, so the other thing that you can look at here, aside from what we've discussed, the other part that I will encourage you to look at or study as you go on is blindness. Like we said, there are types of blindness. We said one. Let me just go a bit behind. So we have night blindness. This is something that you studied on nutrients, which is caused due to lack of vitamin A. That is what we call night blindness, or that is the cause of night blindness. Then we have liver blindness. Get to look at what is that called liver blindness. Okay, then we have color blindness. This one, I'm sure if you've done genetics, you know that it is sex-linked disorder. Then we have also blindness due to injury, and of course generally from general knowledge you know that it's a blindness caused due to injury, when you injure yourself. So please get to look at all that part. Otherwise, this is the quick recap that I wanted us to have. I guess it has been helpful. If you found this video helpful, do not forget to like it, share with others, and also if you've not subscribed to this YouTube channel, consider doing that. For those writing GCE next year, if you've just watched this video, we are enrolling for GCE 2025. As you know, for Zambia registration starts, that is November 1. So it's a time to start lessons. You can get in touch on the number 0976 40256 in case you need. The code is 26, and we'll be able to get in touch. Otherwise, see you in the next one.